dkdynamite, and this is my second boss fight guide for DLC 4 in Black Ops 6 Zombies. Definitely stay tuned. Now, the hunt is still on for a bunch of side Easter eggs here on The Reckoning, so expect plenty of videos here on the channel and additional article updates on detonated.com. Yesterday, I posted a tutorial on how to beat SAM, which I do believe triggers the canon ending, but the community has made it clear that the Richtofen boss fight is much harder to complete, so that's what we're going to be focusing on in this video. A huge disclaimer is that you don't get to choose which boss fight you can attempt until the very end of the main quest, so all the steps to trigger either boss fight are still the same, while I do want to remind you as well that only the base Gorg effects is required for the main Easter egg. So first things first, the weapon that I really recommend bringing into the boss fight is the GPMG with the belt-fed magazine. Now, of course, if you don't have this attachment, you could of course run one of the other bigger mags that will require you to reload, but the belt-fed mag, of course, will overheat as you keep shooting, but when you triple pack-a-punch this weapon, you'll never have to deal with the weapon overheating again. So you essentially have unlimited ammo and 1,000 bullets in your reserve as you shoot at Richtofen. Now, I also felt like a worthy secondary was the ray gun, whether it's the Mark 1 or the Mark 2, as it was great for crowd control during the boss, and is also great for the first phase of the boss fight where Richtofen is in a mech suit. I also cannot stress enough how important it is to make sure that you have tier 3 pack-a-punch and orange rarity on your weapon to make sure you're actually damaging Richtofen. Now, if you have these gobblegums available, I'd highly recommend bringing in Near-Death Experience, Idle Eyes, Power Keg, or even Phoenix Up. Now, once you spawn into a match of the Reckoning, you'll of course be guided to unlocking Power and Pack-a-Punch, no need to cover that, but during Commando Klaus rounds or the special waves, you'll actually be able to obtain some Klaus arms. Make sure you guys aim at the Commando Klaus bot's arms so that you could possibly even get both during the very first special round. Worst case scenario, you get one arm on round 5 and another one closer to round 10. Now, feel free to follow along with exactly how we navigated through the map and completed all of the Easter egg steps. So as the map got opened up, we ended up heading to the Klaus assembly where we had to find 2 different Klaus legs. These legs will always be in this room, just in some different spawns. As you can see, they could be crept around the corner, on some debris. They'll always be found in this room no matter what, so don't worry about that. But in the meantime, head over to the Mutant Research Lab where you can find a syringe just here in the corner. Once you have that, you want to randomly kill zombies anywhere around the Janus Towers until one actually drops a key card. Pick that one up, which you can actually open a fridge with here in the Mutant Research Lab. It's right here by PhD Flopper. Inside, you'll find a DNA vial. And after this, before we complete any other main quest steps, let's go ahead and obtain the free Gorg effects, which is mandatory. What you want to do is take a look at 2 different static key screens. One is on the back side of the room, and the other is located right behind Richtofen's family. As you can see, this first computer showed me the word pejorative, and the second computer showed me the word undermine. These words will be different for you in every single game, and will also change as the rounds progress, so the goal is to keep note of both words in the same specific round. What you want to do is take a look at those 2 words, and take the first letters of each word and form an element that you can find on the periodic table. In my case, I had the letter P and then the letter U. What do you know? There's an element called PU, and the number above that is 94. That's going to be a 3-digit code used to open a very important door just up the stairs here. And the 3-digit code in this case can't just be 94, so you got to add a 0 to the beginning of your numbers. I'd also like to mention the atomic number solver that we just released over on the Detonated Codex with the link down below. All you have to do is input each of the words that you saw, and it should give you the exact element that you need for your code. Once inside, I'd highly recommend avoiding any insta-kills or using any super overpowered weapons. Your goal is to slowly kill zombies and weaken them until vermin end up spawning in, and this is something that also was pretty confusing because I was on a high round when recording my free Gorg effects video earlier. As you kill the vermin very close to the cyst here, they'll actually be absorbed into the cyst itself, and after you kill about, I want to say 3 to 5 vermin, you'll then have to kill some regular zombies in front of the cyst as well. You'll also see them levitate and kind of just morph into the cyst. But you'll know you've killed enough once you can pick up the cyst, and once you can bring this to the computing core where you have to let 3 dark ether plants drain their toxins onto your cyst. You'll be holding the cyst in your hand if you're standing in the right spot, and every game that I've played, these plants were in the same exact spawns. So once the health bars are fully depleted on each of the Dark Ether plants, you'll now want to head back to where the Forsaken is, where you're going to have to activate a power surge. All you have to do is hit 4 computers, just as I do, that are located right around the Forsaken. This will spawn an Uberklaus, shoot his shoulders until he's weakened, and then bring him right onto this platform so the Forsaken can put his essence into the Uberklaus, in which you then have to kill him fully. Once the Forsaken is killed, voila, you have a free Gorgafex, which is needed for the main Easter egg. But now what you want to do is ride the beam coming from the particle accelerator in the Pack-a-Punch room. As you do that, it'll hit a zombie who will then fall to the floor, and you then want to collect his blood sample that you're going to take back to the mutant research lab. Interact in the machine where you got the syringe to begin with, and then kill the red HVT Mangler to be given a Fowler mutant injection. Keep in mind, you'll also be faced with other maps enemies at just this point of the quest, and then never again. You can also craft the Fowler mutant injection again for 1500 salvage in case you waste it, but at this point the Uberklaus should be spawning in. What you want to do is let him do his projectile attack to where the projectile lands right near the friendly Klaus. This will charge him up. You now want to head back to the Forsaken containment, and just up the stairs here, you want to enable that Fowler mutant injection, and once you're a Mangler, interact with this retina scanner, which will open the secret teleportation room. Now keep note of where this room exactly is, because it'll be important for a couple of steps later on. This is where I recommend looking for your 4-digit computer code, which will be spread across 4 different folders that can only spawn in 2 specific rooms, thankfully. These folders with viewable intel can only be found in the T1 Executive Suite, stretching into the Director's office, while other folders can also be found in the Special Teleportation Room, which you just opened using the mutant injection. Now these folders you're looking for can only be in around 6 different spawns within these 2 rooms, so they're usually just on some desks or tables by lamps. They're pretty easy to spot. You can interact with these folders to see a specific piece of intel that is referencing some old lore from previous Black Ops games. And what you want to keep note of is the number next to the item being described in the intel, as well as the date in which the intel was produced. So in my case, I found BND badge number 6, the date is June 28, 1985, and then found the not-so collar labeled item 1, and then I found the combat goggles intel labeled number 5, and this was dated October 12th. Lastly, I found the scarf intel labeled number 3, dated August 21st. So what you want to do is order these folders from the oldest to the newest date. So with that, take a look at all the numbers next to each item, and in my case, the code is going to be 6135. You then want to head back into the secret teleportation room, and you want to input this code onto this computer. But now we're going to focus on the friendly Klaus. Once he's built, he's going to head over to this computer right next to where he was built. You want to pass around. After that, he's going to fly over to the SAM trial right beneath the Forsaken. It'll then activate a kill challenge, which is really easy to do. And this is probably where you want to activate some profit sharing to get a bunch of points. Finish that and go to the teleportation room where Klaus is going to be working on this computer for the rest of the Easter egg. After this, you have to head to the quantum computing core room and punch this case to grab a brain, pick it up and follow my route, as you're on a time limit to bring this back to Klaus. If you fail, you'll be on a cooldown timer for about a minute before you can try again. And once you've placed this brain, you now want to shoot a zombie on a balcony back in the quantum computer core, just up there. As you can see, it'll always be in this location, and you'll see a head fall to the ground. Now, you could have initially done this earlier in the game when you acquired the Gorgafex, but that's just good to know for speedrunners. Now, you want to pick up the head and place it in any mop bucket that you can find throughout the map. The trick, though, is finding a mop bucket and filling it with water before you proceed. We saw a mop bucket in the executive suites and another by the Klaus assembly. There's probably another 1 or 2 located around the map as well. We'll update the locations over on Detonated. They usually spawn underneath sprinklers, so these sprinklers could randomly turn on when you get kills near them, or when you use hot items like Molotovs or even napalm bursts. Once a mop bucket is filled with water, it only takes a second when underneath the sprinkler. You want to then place the head in it to go ahead and cleanse the head, in which you'll then have to collect a ton of souls, specifically from the purple zombies that you'll see nearby. After collecting a good 30 souls, you'll stop seeing purple zombies spawning in, and the zombie head may even talk to you. You can then pick up the head, which you'll have to drop once it does damage to you, and bring the head all the way back to the teleportation room where Klaus is. You can drop the fungal head right here on the ground and shoot a charge shot into the broken portal, in which you'll be notified that you have to hit a red shiny button in the Pack-a-Punch room. This will spawn shrouded looking vermin, which you can only kill with the Gorgafex. So you want to kill around 5 of them so that you can pick up this blue orb right on the console. So once you're back in the teleportation room, use a charge shot and their broken portal, pick up the head that we left here, and just place it in the portal, in which now you need to pick up these Casimir looking vacuum seal devices located in these blue boxes around the map. Now, after grabbing one vacuum seal, you do have to wait a little while before they respawn in these same boxes, but your entire squad can help. Your goal is to find 4 floating purple objects all around the Janus towers and throw these vacuum seals onto the purple objects to collect them, and you have to collect a total of 4. Now, you can only collect one item at a time with one specific Casimir, but once you grab that item, it'll be sent right to your inventory so you can grab another vacuum seal. But also, don't get too close to the purple objects or also start to move around the room that you're in. But once you have all 4 vacuum seals, you can place them in this device right in front of that originally broken portal, and one by one, as those zombies are pouring in, you want to hit all these red glowing switches around the room until a total of 5 do become green. Once they're green, you're just about boss fight ready. This is where you want to make sure you craft a self-revive, maybe even a chopper gunner, a death machine, grab some Casimirs, some decoys, and I also really enjoyed using lightmen that I found pretty helpful during the boss fights, maybe even craft that. But once your team initiates a vote, you'll be teleported to the 3rd Janus Tower. This is where you can make a decision on the Sentinel artifact, which boss fight you want to activate. In this case, I clicked down on D-pad to help SAM, which means my boss fight will be against Richtofen. Now, at this point, the next couple of minutes are going to be the same as the SAM boss fight, where you're going to face off against some zombies on this lift. It'll drop you off on a floor where you have to do a couple of soul boxes, 3 in total. You also have access to a crafting station, the arsenal machine, Wonder Fizz, and then on the next floor up, you'll then have to shoot a bunch of crystals all over the wall. But once all the crystals have been shot, you'll be sent to the roof where you can finally face Richtofen. Now, the first phase of this boss fight has Richtofen in a big mech suit. He's essentially a giant Uber-Klaus, and in the meantime, a bunch of Commando Klaus enemies are also spawning nearby. You may even see an actual Uber-Klaus elite enemy spawn in every now and again. We only came across 1 or 2 during this first phase of the fight, and honestly, this phase isn't very difficult. Obviously, you could do very similar attacks to the Uber-Klaus elite enemy. Keep your distance, but you want to still focus on those shoulder pads similar to the regular Uber-Klaus, and that'll allow you to do a lot of damage to Richtofen himself. Once those shoulder plates are destroyed is when you can actually start shooting his face. Now, I've heard Cryo Freeze is one of the best ammo mods that you can bring into this fight, and Wonder Weapons are also pretty useful against this first part of the boss fight. Not necessarily when Richtofen jumps out, but when he's in a mech suit, I feel like the ray gun was pretty damn solid, as well as maybe even the Gorg effects if you happen to bring it into the fight, although I don't really recommend that when it comes to crowd control. But I feel like you can deplete his health bar pretty quickly, and once you do that, there's a bit of a bait and switch. While you would assume that the boss fight is over, Richtofen himself jumps out of the mech suit with a jetpack, while he also has the ability to shock charge you, dive bomb, and use the Wonder Waff, which can insta-down every single player that he shoots. Now, technically speaking, if he shoots you with the Wonder Waff, it'll take away most of your health and you have a chance to get away, but oftentimes he'll shoot you once, then immediately again, which will guarantee a down. The other thing is, if you happen to take some damage from the nearby enemies, like some of the random zombies or the Commando Klaus, then he shoots you with the Waff, you're just dead. So the best way we managed to defeat Richtofen here is that while he's locked on to one particular teammate, obviously this is for co-op, that's when other teammates have the opportunity to maintain a distance and shoot him from afar, especially with this GPMG that doesn't require you to reload. And what you want to do is, right as Richtofen starts looking at, let's say you, that's when you want to just dart the other direction and start running, PhD sliding, because you don't want to stand still too long, because if he looks at you, he's probably going to insta-kill you with that Wonder Waff. This is by far one of the most difficult boss fights in Black Ops 6 Zombies, especially if you're on solo. Solo is where you want to focus more on popping Ether Shroud, throwing Casimirs and decoys, because that'll give you an opportunity to actually go ahead and shoot Richtofen, because other than that, he's constantly going to be locked onto you, chasing you and trying to shoot you with that Waff. Now, when he starts doing a dive bomb and flies away, that's also when you can start getting some cheap shots on him without having to worry about him shooting you with the Wonder Waff. Now, this is Richtofen after all, so I guess it makes sense why this boss fight could be so difficult, but if you have near-death experience, I'd only recommend using this when your teammates are going down with a bunch of perks. If teammates only have, let's say, 1 or 2 perks, or don't have any at all, that's when you should stick to res, and if multiple teammates go down and they're all kind of separated, that's when I'd recommend using a Phoenix Up. But still be careful using Idle Eyes, or hey, even Ether Shroud. Still move a little bit as you use those abilities, because Richtofen can still just randomly shoot his projectiles all around you, which can still kill you even while cloaked against the other zombies. Now take advantage of when Richtofen flies away for a good minute. This is where you want to kill as many enemies as you can to keep recharging your field upgrade, because trust me, you're gonna need it. But trying to maneuver yourself and hide behind cover is also important when he starts shooting the Wunderwaffe or shooting out his projectiles that can shock you and damage you pretty quickly. This is where you can maybe get a bit of a head glitch going, peek around the corner to get a bunch of shots on him, keep moving, rinse and repeat, maybe move counterclockwise or just clockwise with your team just to ensure that Richtofen's kind of going in a circle, focusing on one of your teammates at a time, which is kind of baiting them out so that the other teammates can get behind them, focusing on his jetpack, and of course shooting him in the face to damage him as much as possible. But all in all, with good communication and a weapon like what I'm using, so long as you're just moving as much as you can, keeping a distance, hiding behind cover, and actually focusing on shooting him as much as you can while he's actually targeting a different teammate, I think this is a pretty manageable boss fight, and if anything, has less science to it compared to SAM, since SAM has multiple phases and could do a ton of other attacks that drastically change the way you can play, whereas when it comes to Richtofen, you just gotta watch out for those Wunderwaffe shots. But once you've killed Richtofen, the non-canon ending has SAM restoring the original Samantha Maxis as she takes her body, while Requiem still gets sent to an unknown location where they come face to face with a new version of Ultimus. But if you choose to continue playing, the rewards are just about the same, but permanent unlocks do include a new operator skin for Dr. Gray, a calling card depicting both boss fights, and even some XP. As of now, no super Easter egg has been released yet.